Hi, I'm Walt Culver. Right now I'm the chairman of the Great Lakes Energy Institute here, and I took that over 2 years ago with no real background in energy. But what's interesting is modern energy development is really in terms of 4 or 5 years of real experience in that area. So I didn't start out at a tremendous disadvantage compared to the folks looking at modern energy questions. Historically, I come from a family that was very modest background, pretty much accountants. My mother was a telephone operator. Really no concept of entrepreneurship. The concept was you get a job, earn $100 a week, and you'll live well and then retire, and somehow your family will take care of you after retirement. Because at that time, Social Security was a de minimis part of any sort of income. But one part of my family was Italian. You can't tell by the name Culver. And they were driven out of Italy because of their history in supporting Garibaldi. Garibaldi was the warrior statesman that united Italy, the city-states of Italy, into a single country. And either you were a hero or you were a demon. Now, Garibaldi himself was thrown out of Italy, and so was my great-grandfather, because he supported Garibaldi. He was part of Garibaldi's forces. And in fact, my great-grandfather ended up dying in Youngstown, Ohio, interestingly enough. That's finally the place they ended up. But my grandfather, who was also forced out of Italy because he couldn't get a job there, and he was an educated man, told me over and over and over again, don't underestimate this country. You can do anything you want in this country as long as you get an education. You can become president of the United States, and nobody can prevent you from doing that because of your background or because of your political beliefs. Take advantage of it. I got my undergraduate degree and then came to Case for my master's and PhD in 1960, and that was the time the Systems Research Center started. Under the Systems Research Center, although I was assigned nominally to the EE department, I could take as many courses outside the EE department as inside the EE department. And I ended up taking courses in mechanical engineering, course in quantum mechanics. In those days, people said, "What do you do that? What could quantum mechanics possibly use for?" A lot of courses in mathematics, and ended up graduating, completing my work for the PhD in 1963 and joining the Westinghouse Defense and Space Center in Baltimore in their applied math department. In other words, even though I was a EE, I didn't know how to design a circuit. So I did something else and got in their applied math department. Within a couple of years, I ran the applied math department and used all that background, which is very broad, not very deep, to deal with issues ranging from tracking Russian satellites and trying to figure out what they look like, which required computers. And at Westinghouse Defense and Space Center, 10,000 people, we had one computer. And this may be hard to believe these days, but one computer was a UNIVAC 1107. And you submitted your jobs by card decks and so on. And as I began moving up to be a manager in the applied math department, we figured out in the applied math department how to access that computer and get quick turnaround, which was generally late at night every night. But suddenly I started getting involved in something which later on became known as information technology. Prior to my getting involved with computers, like in energy right now, people only had 4 or 5 years of experience. So very rapidly I began seeing as a manager, the lackings were not so much technology, but how to build what you intended to build. And some of you may not know this, or some of you may not recall it, but it was a common practice in those days to start programming without a specification, without a hard set of objectives, and sort of figuring out how you got there once you got there. And I was mentioning last night, my boss at Westinghouse said, you must take over this project. We've had it for 7 years with the Advanced Research Project Agency, and we just can't track these Russian satellites. And it's all probably in the software that problem arises. And I didn't have enough time to do anything, so I put the 3 or 4 software guys together who worked for me, and they were not very deep in software. They sat in one cubicle, and this 25-year-old kid called me over one day. He said, "Walt, take a look at this." I said, "What?" He said, "That's omega equals minus something." I said, "Yeah, omega is probably the rotation rate of the Earth." He said, "Yeah, but in this orientation, shouldn't it be plus instead of minus?" For 7 years, the rotation rate of the Earth in that program was in minus instead of plus. And that was typical of quality control that existed in software and computer systems in those days. In 1968, I joined a small company, then small company known as Computer Sciences Corporation, as their chief technical advisor for NASA initially. Found some of the same things, and slowly moved to take over a small defense project at RCA up in Moorestown, New Jersey, with 13 people. Those 13 people had to find myself, because Computer Sciences Corporation didn't have management systems that I can think about. RCA won the contract with the Navy, U.S. Navy, to build what was supposed to be a small number of destroyers and cruisers, like 7 or 8, and eventually became the Navy's Aegis program, which is now generating something like 80 or 90 ships of the fleet and is the main heart of the fleet. The issues there were not technical, the issues were management. When we submitted the proposal to the Navy said, the sailors, the white hat sailors, will never learn how to use computers. How could you possibly propose what you propose? We convinced them to award the contract, and right now a Navy ship, Aegis ship, has about 1/3 to 1/5 the complement of sailors that it would have if it did not have all these computers and stuff in it. For the next 35 years, I grew up with the IT industry. Within Computer Sciences Corporation, I built from scratch, from those 13 people. I built what is now their defense systems business, which is, I guess, $2 or $3 or $4 billion a year. I left there to start my own company in 1990 on my own funds, and it was sort of okay. The defense business startup within CSC was fantastically successful. Started my own business, consulting business, it was sort of okay. I sold it, did okay. Started another company, this time with outside funding in 1998 with a business partner. But this time I was 60 years old. And at that point, we went to an investment banking firm in Chicago, briefed our idea, which was a very simple idea: buy up small companies in the federal contracting sector that are too small to have any exit plan for about 30 to 40 cents of the dollar. And if we integrate them into a $100 million business or more, they're worth about $1 a dollar. And my discussion with one of the critiquers in the investment banking firm was, even if my partner and I screw up, you'll still at least break even because of the difference in value of the different sizes. That was the business plan. They agreed to give us $31 million, and then they said, by the way, we really do need a business plan for you guys.